I think it would be really hard for a cis person to truly imagine what it's.
Watching this conversation made me question myself, made me question, am I a conservative trans woman? And the answer to that question is no, I'm not a conservative trans woman. The true answer and the true issue with this conversation is they didn't have enough black voices in that conversation to make this conversation valid to me. Shout out to Sister Blossom. Sister Blossom did the best that she could do under those circumstances. They literally left her out in left field. She was the only black voice on the panel. She was the only black trans woman voice on the panel. Most of the other people on the panel that was on her side were trans men and they were white, right? So the issue that I have with this panel is it's not that I agree with Blair, it's just that from a black trans perspective, a lot of the stuff that was going on in the panel is the stuff that is negative to our community. And it's just so happened that in this one incident, in this one case, I'm not going to say I agree with Blair. I just understand where Blair is coming from, especially when it comes to the bathroom issue. It's like, it's only so many of us as trans people in the world, right? So, and there have been stories, mainly of white people, and that's something that I really wish they would address in this conversation, because I feel like white people get to identify as whatever they want, right? Whether they are actually in transition or not. So white people have privilege, be it LGBTQ, be it whatever. You're white, you still have privilege. I wish they would have addressed that point a little bit deeper onto the panel. So when white men who identify as trans, they don't identify as women now, they just identify as, and they want all the privileges of being trans and are able to get access into these women's spaces, and then they go into these women's spaces and do weird shit, pull out their wee-wees, masturbate, so on and so forth. We then look like the assholes when we jump on panels and you have people who identify as trans, yet they don't look the part. And I hate to put it about looks. I hate to put it about looks because it's not always about looks. I get that. But you have to meet people where they're at. And I think that's a large part of the thing where the community is just overlooking. Like, we have to meet the people where they're at. And a lot of people just aren't in a space where they get it or they even want to get it. So we have to meet people where they're at. So when you're on a panel, you're the only black person. You're on the liberal side, you're the only trans person on the liberal side that looks the part of a trans. Oh gosh, I'm not a conservative trans woman, y'all. I'm not a conservative trans woman, but it's just burns my biscuits. When you're the black trans woman and you're the only black trans woman on that side, and you're the trans person, you're the trans woman on that side who is supposed to be articulating the liberal point of view, but you're the only binary trans person on that side. You have two trans men who are on your side who do present as men. But then you have the GNC person who is so, I'm a woman, but you have a whole beard. And I get it that it should be more than about that. But when you want to have conversations with people who don't get it, who don't want to get it, who aren't trying to get it, getting it ain't part of their jizz. They're just trying to understand to the basis of their ability. It makes us look insane. And this is why I feel like so many people when watching this, are on Blair's side because Blair presents as a woman. A conservative woman, yes, but as a woman nonetheless. So when they see Blair and they hear what Blair's saying, it just makes sense to them because they see somebody who's in transition who is making points that they already kind of feel. I hate that this happened this way. I just really hate that this. I just really, 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 really hate that this happened this way. Oh gosh. I can't believe so many people are on Blair White's side on this damn issue. Right? She is so damn wrong. But she presented herself in a way to make herself look good. And Jubilee, I know you're trying to get people to come to middle grounds, but sometimes when you put certain people on certain panels, there will never be a middle ground. And Blair White, this was the example, because you had other conversations with trans people versus other groups of people. I think it was conservative gays versus liberal gays or whatever, and you've had this exact same debate, but you didn't have people who, from the onset, as soon as you mention the name Blair White, there was just never going to be a middle ground. It's just like if you have Candace Owens, it's never going to be a middle ground. If you have Flame Monroe, there's never going to be a middle ground. There was never going to be a middle ground with Blair White. And she just used y'all platform as propaganda to this whole detransitioning community. She just put a lot of things out there into the universe. And Jubilee, this is your fault. This conversation completely did not go the way that you went. I'm not sure what side of the fence that you all lean on this, but you did not make none of the people on the liberal side of transness look good. I don't understand why you didn't. If you have Blair White and even the people on the conservative side, I'm not going to say they were beautiful, but they were still passable trans people. Why the four liberal people couldn't be four passable trans people so it could have been an equal footing? Off rip, y'all put this conversation not on equal footing. It just was not fair. And y'all made Blossom out to be the angry black trans woman who was just attacking Blair when Blair was being so passive aggressive. Blair was being so nasty. Blair was being so bitter. But you really made Blossom out to be the angry black trans woman. And again, this is why a lot of black trans people don't go on panels like this because we don't want to be made out to be the angry black trans woman when you have some white passing trans woman saying all kind of crazy shit, being all kind of passive aggressive towards us. But those things don't get checked because they're speaking softly and they're reading you low. So those things don't get checked. But then when we retort, we're made out to be the whole entire time, Blair was being very aggressive to Blossom. But she was doing it softly and she was doing it soft spokenly. So she was presenting as the angry Blossom was being presented as the angry black woman attacking Blair when Blair was being very passive aggressive and that was not being checked. I really hope they try to do this conversation with all black trans women because or have this conversation, Jubilee, white trans people versus black trans people. It shouldn't even be conservative versus liberal because I feel like being a black trans woman, I live in a completely different world, a completely different universe than the white trans people that I know. The shit that they go through, I could never understand. The shit that I go through, they could never understand. That's when Blossom was like, you never should interrupt a black trans woman. And everybody was like, what? Because she was the only black person on the panel. Jubilee, this was a fail. Thank you.